Every morning presents a spiritual crossroads. Before your feet touch the floor, before your mind begins to calculate responsibilities, before your heart starts reacting to yesterday's problems, there is a quiet invitation from heaven to place God first. This is not about routine or religious habit. It is about establishing who holds the highest authority in your life. When God becomes your first focus, He becomes your strongest foundation. What you honor first shapes everything that follows. Many people begin their day with noise, notifications, messages, social media, deadlines, and demands rush into their consciousness before they have even taken a deep breath. Without realizing it, they have already surrendered the first portion of their day to distraction. But the first moments of the morning are sacred. They are a doorway into alignment. They are a chance to declare, God, you are above my schedule. You are above my emotions. You are above my fears. This declaration may be spoken quietly, but its impact is powerful. Putting God first means inviting Him into your thoughts before you invite stress. It means acknowledging His presence before acknowledging your problems. It means recognizing that no challenge you face today is bigger than the God who created you. When you begin your day this way, worry loses its grip. Anxiety loses its authority. Confusion loses its voice. Peace steps forward and takes its rightful place. Prioritizing God in the morning does not require perfect words or long speeches. It requires a willing heart. A simple whisper of thank you can shift your atmosphere. A short prayer of surrender can realign your spirit. A moment of stillness can open your awareness to divine guidance. The power is not in the length of the prayer. The power is in the posture of the heart. When God is first, your decisions begin to change. You become slower to react and quicker to listen. You become less driven by impulse and more led by wisdom. You start viewing people through compassion instead of irritation. You start approaching obstacles with faith instead of fear. This is not because your problems disappear, but because your perspective transforms. Placing God first also means trusting Him with outcomes. It means believing that even when you do not understand the process, He is still in control. It means choosing faith over panic. It means choosing prayer over complaining. It means choosing surrender over self-reliance. Self-reliance says, I must handle everything. Faith says, God is handling what I cannot. When God becomes your first priority, your inner world begins to stabilize. You may still face pressure, but you are no longer crushed by it. You may still encounter opposition, but you are not defeated by it. You may still walk through uncertainty, but you are not walking alone. Every morning is a fresh altar. Every sunrise is an opportunity to reset your focus. You cannot control everything that happens in a day, but you can control who you place first in your day. And when God is first, nothing else has the power to take His place. Choosing God first is choosing order over chaos. It is choosing peace over panic. It is choosing purpose over pressure. It is a daily decision, a repeated commitment, a continual surrender. And when this becomes your lifestyle, not just your routine, you will begin to notice something shift. Your days become lighter. Your heart becomes steadier. Your faith becomes stronger, because what you place first determines what has power. And when God is first, he becomes the power behind everything else. Carrying heavy burdens is never what you were created to do alone. Yet many people wake up every morning already exhausted, not because their bodies are weak, but because their minds and hearts are overloaded. They are holding on to worries about the future, regrets from the past, and pressure from the present. They replay conversations. They imagine worst-case scenarios. They silently struggle with fears they have never spoken out loud. Over time, this invisible weight begins to drain joy, disturb peace, and weaken faith. Surrender is the divine exchange that changes everything. It is the moment you stop trying to control what you were never meant to control. It is the moment you admit, I cannot carry this by myself anymore. This is not weakness. This is wisdom. True strength is not found in pretending to be okay. True strength is found in placing your broken pieces into God's hands and trusting Him to hold what you cannot. Releasing burdens does not mean pretending problems do not exist. It means acknowledging that God is greater than the problems. It means recognizing that worry has never solved anything, but faith has moved mountains. When you surrender your fears, you are not giving up. You are handing over responsibility to a higher authority. You are saying, God, I trust you more than I trust my own understanding. Many people struggle with surrender because they are afraid of losing control. But control is an illusion. You cannot control outcomes, people, or circumstances. You can only control your response. And surrender is the most powerful response you can choose. It shifts your focus from what you cannot change to the one who can change everything. When you release your burdens to God, peace begins to settle into places where anxiety once lived. Your breathing becomes deeper. Your thoughts become quieter. Your heart becomes lighter. You start realizing that you do not have to have all the answers. You do not have to figure out every step. You only have to trust the one who sees the entire path. Surrender is not a one-time event. It is a daily decision. Some days you will have to release the same worry again and again. That does not mean you are failing. It means you are human. Each time you surrender, you are strengthening your faith muscle. Each time you let go, you are reinforcing your dependence on God rather than yourself. There is freedom in admitting your limits. There is peace in acknowledging your need for God. You were never designed to be your own savior. You were designed to be led. You were designed to be supported. You were designed to be carried when the load becomes too heavy. When you hold on to burdens, they begin to define you. But when you release burdens, God begins to refine you. He replaces fear with faith. He replaces heaviness with hope. He replaces confusion with clarity, not always instantly, not always in the way you expect, but always in the way that is best. Surrender opens the door for the divine intervention. It creates space for God to move. It invites heaven into your situation. And when God steps into what you release, transformation begins. What once felt impossible starts to feel manageable. What once felt overwhelming starts to feel conquerable. Not because you suddenly became stronger, but because you finally stopped carrying what was never yours to carry alone. Every day you are pursuing something, whether you realize it or not, your time, energy, thoughts, and attention are constantly moving in a certain direction. Some people are chasing success. Some are chasing money. Some are chasing approval. Some are chasing security. Some are chasing relationships. The question is not whether you are chasing something. The question is what you are chasing first. What you seek first becomes what shapes you most. It influences your decisions. It affects your priorities. It determines what you sacrifice for. If God is not first, something else will take that place. And whatever takes that place will eventually begin to control you. Money can become a master. Approval can become an addiction. Ambition can become an obsession. But when God is first, everything else falls into proper order. Seeking God first means choosing His presence before pursuing platforms. It means choosing prayer before pressure. It means choosing obedience before opportunity. It means choosing purpose before popularity. This does not mean you stop working hard or stop dreaming big. It means your dreams are now rooted in divine direction instead of personal desire alone. Many people believe that if they chase success hard enough, peace will eventually follow. But peace does not come from achievement. Peace comes from alignment. You can have money and still be empty. You can have influence and still be lost. You can have accomplishments and still feel unfulfilled. But when you chase God first, fulfillment becomes your foundation, not your finish line. When God is your primary pursuit, you begin to hear His voice more clearly. You become sensitive to promptings you once ignored. You start noticing doors that should remain closed and doors that are meant to open. You stop forcing relationships that are not healthy. You stop chasing environments that drain your spirit. You become more discerning, more grounded, more stable. Chasing God first also protects you from disappointment. When your hope is tied only to people, people can fail you. When your hope is tied only to outcomes, outcomes can change. But when your hope is anchored in God, disappointment loses its power to destroy your faith. You learn to trust that even detours are part of divine design. Seeking God first does not guarantee a life without challenges. It guarantees a life with guidance. It guarantees that you are not walking blindly. It guarantees that you are not navigating alone. It guarantees that even in uncertainty, you are being led. Many people spend years climbing ladders only to realize they leaned against the wrong wall. Seeking God first ensures you are building in the right direction. It ensures that your effort is not wasted. It ensures that your energy is invested, not exhausted. When God is first, success becomes more than personal gain. It becomes a tool to serve, a tool to bless, a tool to impact, a tool to uplift others. Your life stops being only about you and starts becoming about purpose. You do not have to chase everything the world advertises. You do not have to run after every opportunity. You do not have to compare your journey to anyone else's. When you seek God first, He custom designs your path. He orders your steps. He aligns your timing. He positions you where you need to be. Chasing God first simplifies life. It clears the noise. It quiets the chaos. It centers your heart. It reminds you that the greatest pursuit is not success, not fame, not wealth, but a deep, living relationship with the one who created you. And from that relationship flows everything else you truly need. Life constantly presents choices. Some are small and seem insignificant. Others feel heavy and life-altering. In the middle of these decisions, many people rely solely on logic, experience, or advice from others. While these things have value, they are limited. Human understanding can only see a portion of the picture, but prayer opens access to divine perspective. When you pray before you plan, you invite God into the decision-making process. You acknowledge that His wisdom is greater than your own. Prayer is more than asking for things. It is alignment. It is positioning your heart to hear, receive, and follow divine direction. When you take time to pray before making plans, you shift from self-led living to God-led living. You stop saying, here is what I want to do, and begin saying, show me what you want me to do. That simple shift changes everything. Many people plan first and pray later. They create their own path and then ask God to bless it. But true alignment happens when you ask God to design the path in the first place. When prayer comes first, confusion begins to lose its power. Uncertainty becomes less intimidating. You may not receive every answer instantly, but you gain peace in knowing that God is guiding your steps. Prayer has a way of straightening what feels crooked. Situations that seem tangled begin to unravel. Relationships that feel strained start to soften. Opportunities that once seemed hidden become visible. This does not always happen in dramatic ways. Often, it happens through subtle nudges, gentle impressions, and quiet convictions. But these small shifts produce big results over time. When you pray before you plan, you become more patient. You stop rushing into decisions out of fear. You stop forcing outcomes because of pressure. You learn to wait for confirmation. You learn to recognize when a door is opening and when a door is closing. Waiting no longer feels like punishment. It feels like preparation. Prayer also protects you from unnecessary mistakes. It does not mean you will never make wrong choices, but it significantly reduces impulsive decisions. You become more thoughtful, more discerning, more aware of consequences. You start asking better questions. You start evaluating opportunities through a spiritual lens, not just an emotional one. Alignment through prayer does not remove responsibility. You still have to act. You still have to move forward. But your actions are now guided instead of random. Your steps are now intentional instead of reactionary. You are no longer simply responding to circumstances. You are walking in direction. There is a difference between being busy and being productive. Prayer helps you recognize that difference. You may discover that some things you have been working so hard on are not what you are called to do. You may realize that certain doors you were pushing against were never meant to open. At the same time, you may feel a pull toward areas you once overlooked. This is alignment. When you make prayer your starting point, you begin to trust the process more. Even when things move slowly, you believe movement is still happening. Even when you cannot see progress, you trust that God is working behind the scenes. This trust creates stability. It keeps you from constantly second-guessing yourself. Prayer does not just change situations. It changes you. It reshapes your desires. It softens your heart. It sharpens your spiritual sensitivity. Over time, you start wanting what God wants. And when your desires align with His will, your life begins to move with greater clarity and direction. Every new season in life is connected to a decision. Every breakthrough is tied to a response. Many people desire change, growth, and elevation, but few truly understand what unlocks it. Obedience is the key. Not partial obedience, not selective obedience, not delayed obedience, complete obedience. The kind that says yes even when it is uncomfortable. The kind that moves even when it is unclear. The kind that trusts even when it does not make sense. Partial obedience often disguises itself as faithfulness. You may follow God in areas that feel easy while resisting Him in areas that feel costly. You may obey when it benefits you but hesitate when it requires sacrifice. But incomplete obedience produces incomplete results. It keeps you standing at the edge of promise instead of stepping into it. Delayed obedience is another subtle trap. You intend to obey, you plan to obey, you agree with what God is asking, but you keep postponing action. You wait for better timing, better conditions, or more clarity, yet delay can slowly turn into disobedience, not because your heart is rebellious, but because fear has gained influence. Obedience requires trust. It requires believing that God sees what you cannot see. It requires believing that His instructions are rooted in love, not limitation. When God calls you to let go of something, it is not to punish you. It is to make room for something greater. When He calls you to move, it is because staying where you are will eventually restrict your growth. New seasons do not open because you wish for them. They open because you respond correctly to divine direction. Sometimes obedience will feel logical. Other times it will feel uncomfortable. Sometimes it will bring immediate clarity. Other times it will require blind faith. But obedience always leads somewhere meaningful. Many people pray for open doors, but doors open most easily for those who are already walking in obedience. Obedience positions you for divine encounters. It aligns you with opportunities you could never create on your own. It connects you to people you were destined to meet. It shifts environments. It changes trajectories. Obedience also shapes character. It teaches humility. It builds discipline. It strengthens spiritual maturity. You learn to value God's voice above your own preferences. You learn to trust God's timing above your own impatience. You learn to prioritize God's will above personal comfort. There will be moments when obedience costs you relationships. There will be moments when obedience costs you convenience. There will be moments when obedience costs you familiarity, but what you gain is far greater than what you lose. You gain peace. You gain clarity. You gain alignment. You gain purpose. Obedience is not about perfection. It is about direction. You may stumble, you may make mistakes, but your heart remains oriented toward following God. When you fall, you get back up. When you realize you missed a step, you realign. God honors the heart that desires to obey. Every time you choose obedience, you are stepping closer to the next version of yourself. You are moving closer to the life God designed for you. You are moving closer to the calling placed inside you. You are moving closer to the season you have been praying for. New seasons are not announced with fireworks. They are activated through simple yeses, quiet decisions, private obedience, small steps of faith. But those small steps carry enormous weight in the spiritual realm. because obedience is never wasted. It always unlocks something. There is power in what you declare. Words are not just sounds. Words are carriers of meaning, direction, and authority. What you consistently speak begins to shape what you consistently experience. Many people allow circumstances to define their language, but faith calls you to let your language define your perspective. When you declare God's authority over every area of your life, you are making a spiritual statement. God is in control, not fear. God is in control, not chaos. God is in control, not uncertainty. Declaring God's authority is not pretending that problems do not exist. It is acknowledging that problems do not have the final word. It is choosing to speak from a place of trust instead of a place of panic. It is aligning your mouth with your faith. When you say, God is first in my home, you are inviting his peace into your household. You are declaring that love will be stronger than conflict. You are declaring that unity will be stronger than division. You are establishing a spiritual atmosphere where grace can flourish. When you say, God is first in my work, you are declaring that integrity will guide your actions. You are declaring that excellence will be your standard. You are declaring that your career is not just a paycheck, but a platform for purpose. When you say, God is first in my relationships, you are declaring that your connections will be healthy, respectful, and God-honoring. You are declaring that you will not settle for relationships that drain your spirit or pull you away from your values. Declarations shift internal posture before they ever change external circumstances. They remind you who you belong to. They remind you who leads you. They remind you where your strength comes from. In moments of weakness, declarations become anchors. In moments of confusion, they become compasses. Many people speak negatively about their lives without realizing it. They constantly say, nothing ever works out for me. I'm always unlucky. I'll never get ahead. Over time, these words build mental strongholds. They reinforce hopelessness. But when you begin declaring God's authority, you start dismantling those strongholds. Saying God is directing my steps challenges the lie that you are lost. Saying God is providing for me challenges the lie that you will lack. Saying God is fighting for me challenges the lie that you are alone. Declarations are not magic formulas. They are faith-filled affirmations. Their power does not come from repetition alone. Their power comes from belief. When your words agree with your faith and your faith agrees with God's promises, alignment happens. Declaring God's authority also requires consistency. It is easy to speak faith when things are going well. The true test comes when things are difficult, when you choose to declare God's goodness in the middle of hardship. You are making a bold statement of trust. Your declarations will not always change situations instantly, but they will change you. They will strengthen your resolve. They will stabilize your emotions. They will sharpen your focus. Over time, your outward reality begins to reflect your inward alignment. You cannot control everything that happens to you, but you can control what you speak over yourself. You can choose words that build instead of break. You can choose words that heal instead of harm. You can choose words that align with God's authority instead of surrendering to fear. Every declaration is a seed. Some seeds grow quickly, others take time, but none are wasted. When you consistently declare God's authority over your life, you are planting seeds of faith, peace, and confidence. And in due season, those seeds produce a harvest that reveals who has truly been in control all along.